Hey dreamers. I have to drink of water because it's hot out here today. Okay, so we are here with the fives today. Let's just send a quick invite to all the people so that they know that they can come and watch once they're ready. They'll know that we have new content posted in the group. You guys proud of me? It's like literally days apart and we're getting content after content after content. Okay. Say hi to me as you're hopping on. Oh, hey Tess. Alrighty. So we have the fives today. This is like the difficult section of the deck, I think. Like fives are always a bit difficult when they come up. We know that we've got growth opportunities and change and challenges. And I feel like the deck starts to get a little more positive when once we kind of get moved past the fives, at least in the minor arcana anyway. So let's talk a little bit about the numerology of the fives. So the number 5 is the number of change, obviously, and we just kind of talked a little bit about this. So that this can be changes that are forthcoming or changes that you're already happening and that are already in the middle of. So they can be a warning of changes about to come, or not even necessarily a warning, but just letting you know that change is on the horizon, right? These changes almost always manifest as a positive opportunity though. Like it's almost always an opportunity for growth, right? So it's always a really good idea to, when the fives show up, look at where you can incorporate gratitude back into your life. Shift to a place of gratitude, even though you might be really stressed out or the time that you're going through might be stressful. Because this number is also linked to health, well-being, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being, right? So it's a number that kind of encompasses all of those things. So really making sure that you're in a place of gratitude is really important. This number is a message that your guides are available to help with any changes needing to be made in your life, as well as to assist in any transitions that you're experiencing. So make sure to call on them when these cards are showing up and you're not quite sure what's next or where to move from there. So the fives indicate a time to free yourself from anything passed down through the family line that's no longer serving you. So anything in the ancestral line or ancestral DNA or family line. Particularly negative thought patterns, emotional and energetic attachments. So 5 is also the number of positivity. So though it's growth and change, and it can sometimes be conflict and it can sometimes be difficult, it's also the number of positivity. So letting go of that negativity is really what can help shift you into that space, and it's what makes room for more alignment to soul purpose and more opportunity for the growth to just happen quickly, right? The change to happen and move through and move into that real space of positivity. So the positive traits of the number 5 are: it's charismatic, it's vivacious and lively, it's curious, it's upbeat, it's optimistic, adventurous, adaptable, and successful. So the negative traits of 5s, or the number 5, is that they're reckless, that they're restless, lack of self-control, overindulgence, addictive personality, irresponsible, inconsistent. The element of the number 5 is air, and the astrology of the number 5 is Mercury. So the 5 cards, I will show them to you, are the Hierophant, which is number 5. Hey, Sarah. The Temperance card, which is number 14. The 5 of Cups, our Pity Party card. 5 of Pentacles, missed opportunities. 5 of Wands, the Conflict card. And one of my least favorite cards in the deck, 5 of Swords, which to me is always like nervousness, anxiety, looking over the shoulder, like having won the war, but still just in a place of like anxiety and angst, right? I don't like that card. I really like, it's one of my least favorites to show up. I like it when it shows up reversed. The fives in the tarot deck have to do with individualism, with learning, with teaching, with changes, with transitions, with life lessons, life experiences, health and well-being, and choices. So that is what we're talking about when we're talking about fives in the tarot. And Mallory doesn't like the pity party card. I don't think anyone really likes the pity party card either. Okay, so we will start with the Hierophant card. This card I think is one of the most misunderstood cards in the deck, because it has a lot to do with tradition and spiritual tradition, and it can have to do with dogma. And so I think people are a little apprehensive, and it also tends to be one of the cards that people have the hardest time remembering in the deck for whatever reason. You know, as you start to memorize the cards and as you start to become really familiar with them, I find that a lot of people have difficulty, me included, while I was learning, remembering this one and remembering all the various meanings of it. So we have quite a lengthy description on this one because there are a lot of facets to this. So the Hierophant's the card of learning, education, and teaching, especially within the family unit. This card represents religious study and passing on of tradition. So to me, like, that's one of the most important parts of this card. This card absolutely represents tradition to me when it shows up in whatever way, whatever your query is about. And sometimes it is very literal when it's talking about religious tradition or dogma. And sometimes it's talking about your spiritual teachers. Sometimes it's talking about your teacher at school, like an educational teacher. It has to do with the exploration of spiritual paths, trusting your intuition, and following your curiosities. It can also have to do with the initiation into a particular spiritual path. So it indicates an area of your life where tradition, your family unit, or another community you belong to is involved. There might be a family issue that needs healing. You may be making a decision that will affect your family, or it could be deciding whether or not to start a family. It can also be a situation where you're being tested in order that you may grow spiritually. A challenge might present itself, giving you the opportunity to undo any patterns passed down through your ancestral line or your family that are no longer serving you. So this card can indicate a situation where a spiritual teacher either comes into your life or you become a spiritual teacher or a guide for another. So you or the seeker may also be considering gaining some additional training, either through going to school, attending professional events, or even spiritual development workshops or events. So as you can see, there's like a wide range of meanings on this card. For me, the Leah language is like, where are you being traditional in your life, or where do you need to stop being traditional in your life? That's how it often shows up and how I see it. Though if I've got somebody that's coming to work with me and like they're contemplating taking the next step on their spiritual journey and investing in a mentor, like often this card will show up to show that they're either on the right path or reversed. It's not the right person for them, right? So the element of this card is earth, and the astrology is Jupiter in Taurus. The numerology is 5. It is the 5th card in the deck, and the upright meanings are tradition, playing by the rules, a spiritual leader, teaching or learning, developing skills, religious study, or a family dynamic or situation. The reversal of this card means resisting convention. It can mean rebellion, civil disobedience, rigidity, being weighed down by the shoulds, immortality, being overly critical, being arrogant, self-righteous. It can mean hypocrisy, a moral dilemma, or just overall kind of being in a rut, being stuck when it's reversed. So the symbolism on the card, the bishop is there and he has a swallow complexion to show that his strict rules go against his nature and that he doesn't get out very much, like he's locked up in the church, right? His robes are beautiful, but also rigid, repetitive, and artificial. The lilies of purity and the red roses of passion are dead. So he's quite literally squashed the life out of them. So this is like the representation, the symbolism in the deck has a lot to do with dogma, right? And the kind of forced dogma that traditional religion brings with it in many cases. His gloves demonstrate the bishop doesn't want to dirty his hands by helping others or by touching others, right? And the 2 children symbolize the dependent state he wants to keep everybody in. So the number 5 is the number of change. The numerology is the number 5. It also carries with it the energy of curiosity, companionship, learning, exchange of ideas, and creating positive outcomes. and it also brings an excitement about the future. So the astrology is Jupiter in Taurus. Taurus is reliable, determined, stable, and loyal. It values wisdom and knowledge and peace. Taurus can be disciplined to the point of rigidity, so it's equally likely that this sign can adhere to strict tradition or rebel against it altogether. So a little bit of duality there with the astrology. The alternative interpretations of this card. If your query is about love and this card comes up, it means your love life is going well. It's time to go along with what is it's the time to go along with what is expected of you, so don't take unnecessary risks by resisting tradition in your love life. Unless you're a fuck the rules kind of person, in which case you're not going to listen to any of this stuff anyway. If the query is about work, it means that work is likely to be going well as long as you're organized and playing by the rules. A much needed teacher or mentor may show up for you in your life at this time, or you may be called to teach or mentor someone else. Collaborative group experiences are also available to you at this time. Take advantage of the learning opportunities embedded in those group situations. Spirituality, if your query is about spirituality and you pull this card, it means that it's the forefront of your life and mind at this time. Commit to a regular time to connect with divinity in whatever way it is that you do this, and you'll see your life and mindset shift as a result. So if your query is about money and this comes up, it indicates that traditional advice from like financial advisors or people that are well versed in financial matters should be sought out and followed at this time. It's a time for stable, low-risk investments, not the time for games of chance or careless, frivolous spending. So that is our Hierophant card. And there he is again with his crotchety old self. Moving on next to the Temperance card, which is actually one of my favorite cards in the deck. Misunderstood card. A lot of people really feel like this card is like, I don't know, like the angel of justice or something, and people get a little, I think people feel like this card's kind of judgy, which is interesting because I don't really get that from it. It's one I've always really liked. It's card number 14 in the deck. Temperance indicates a time to seek balance. This card is all about balance, pure and simple. There may be a situation that needs to be tempered, a conflict that needs to be mediated, a situation that calls for moderation, or feeling like things are finally coming together. So temperance can also mean an opportunity to use more than one of your gifts to create something bigger and greater than you previously imagined. This card can mean there's something seemingly paradoxical that needs to be integrated in order to create something new, somehow coming into wholeness, right? We are all made up of strengths and weaknesses, light and shadow. Those natural oppositions within us have to come together in order for us to be whole, right? So it's about the balancing of all the parts of ourselves, balancing and integration. The fire is the element associated with this card, and the astrology is Sagittarius in Venus, which is probably why I like this card so much. I'm a Sagittarius. Numerology is 5, obviously. So the number one meaning of this card for me is always balance, right? But it's all things in moderation. And it can mean mediation, it can mean negotiation, integration, wholeness. Like, again, like the balance that this card represents is really like is balance for the sake of coming back into wholeness. This card can indicate also baptism or rebirth. It sometimes will show up in those situations. This card will often sometimes show up after the death card in a reading, meaning like, okay, the death card, death, rebirth, and then moving into balance, right? Like moving into the rebirth and getting balanced after the chaos of like the death and the completion and the rebirth of the death card. This card can indicate conflicts being resolved. So in Leo language, what I'm always saying, if you are getting a reading and this card shows up to me, it's like, where are you in balance? Where are you out of balance? Like, we definitely look at the cards surrounding to figure that out and then ask that question for the querent. So it also can just indicate like, you need to try to find some balance in your life if this is coming out. And so, for example, like if it comes up in the outcome position in the Celtic cross, sorry, I just lost my network connection for a minute. If it comes up in the outcome position in the Celtic cross and it's balanced, like I would say, oh, and it was straight up, I'd be like, this situation, how this all plays out and how it ends, it leaves you feeling balanced. So again, I really like that card. I think it's really misunderstood by a lot of people. I never see it as a bad card. It's definitely a messenger card, right? Like when it's upside down, it's like you need to get back into balance. And when it's right side up, it's like you're balanced or you're finding balance. So, you know, a lot of these meanings, I think like people try to read so much into it. And sometimes the simplest explanations are the best, especially as we're moving into readings and doing, you know, 3-card readings or 5-card readings or Celtic cross readings or, you know, life readings or whatever it is that we happen to be doing. Reversed, this card means being out of balance. Obviously, it can mean conflict, stress, not that you're not feeling creative, that you have a lack of confidence. It can mean competition or restlessness or at the extreme kind of sickness or illness. Okay, so we're going to talk about symbolism on the card. So I'll hold it up here for you to see. The grass is green to show growth and life. He is perfectly balanced, symbolizing his relationship to the elements. He has a foot on each earth and water, a sun on his forehead for fire, and wings for air. So he's representative of all of the elements there in the card. He's juggling to demonstrate that he's perfectly balanced. The crystal ball symbolizes psychic mastery, the future, and mental capabilities. The gold ball symbolizes material wealth, and the silver ball is for spiritual wealth. His robe is white for purity. The sun is rising to symbolize new beginnings. The path leads to the mountains, which are symbols of enlightenment. So that's the symbolism in our temperance card. So it's the 14th card in the deck, which also happens to break down to the number 5. So 14 is a balanced, optimistic, peaceful number, and the number of harmonious coexistence. So the number, this number though is also easily agitated and like thrown out of balance, right? Restless, and can lead to acting on impulse. When 14 shows up, it's an indicator to consider all possible choices carefully. This number is positively and closely connected to divinity. And again, like you've got the angel there in the card, right? So it's so representative of that. And then it breaks down to the number 5, which is obviously the number of change. So the astrology of this card, again, Sagittarius in Venus, the optimistic, hopeful sign of Sagittarius demonstrates the spiritual understanding that comes despite hard times. So Sagittarius energy is also adaptable, steadfast, and able to relate to almost anyone. And it looks like we're actually missing the Venus explanation on this card. So I'm gonna make a little note for Mallory. I don't have an internet connection right now for some reason. So Venus, there's little ants everywhere around here. I don't like it. So we will get the update on Venus in the meaning of Venus in Sagittarius before we upload the deck into the group for you. So alternative interpretations of this card. Fix that too. We always find a couple little typos as we're going through it on the live, right, that we have to go in and fix. Okay, so if this query shows up and your question is about love, whether you're in a relationship or looking for love, the card calls for some inner work and self-evaluation. Practice forgiving yourself for any past guilt and mistakes. Heal past hurts to clear the space for progressing in your relationship or search for love. If it shows up and your query is about work, exercise patience in your work life, and your accomplishments will be acknowledged. That's true. Be careful about setting impossible standards for yourself or others. but don't let that deter you from setting your sights on some lofty goals. If your query is about spirituality and this card shows up, it means it's a time to use meditation to help you access your intuition and trust it for guidance. Ask for the help you need from the universe, your higher self, and from others that you trust. If your query is about money and this card comes up, it indicates incoming funds and spending should be pretty balanced. If you're feeling the need for more income, you need to tap into your courage to ask for what you desire. You cannot get a yes if you don't ask. Okay. Moving on to Five of Pentacles. I'm honestly outside of the major arcana. I'm not a huge fan of the fives. They're a little bit depressing. So we will get through it and move on to the sixes, where life will be a little shinier and a little brighter. But the Five of Pentacles is the card of missed opportunities. Five of Pentacles is a card of worry about physical circumstances such as health, productivity levels, and finances. Mercury's association with this card places worry on communication, particularly in how you're coming off to another person. It's important to remember that the worry shifts our focus on the past and the future. So a focus on the present moment is needed to gain perspective. When this card shows up, it's time to examine what can be causing this worry, particularly if you find that you come from a family focused on worry. This card presents with it an opportunity to recognize worry for the negative, deserving pattern that it is and release it. So to me, the thing about this card is it's like, it literally is a card of missed opportunities, and not because they're not right there in front of you. So, you know, you can see these two, they're standing out in front of, they're literally in front of the church, freezing and starving. And right behind them, if they would simply turn around, they would see that the lights are on inside the church. It's warm, it's inviting, like they could literally go in probably for a warm night's sleep and a hot meal, but they're refusing to look around them to see the opportunities, right? So it's like, it's not that the opportunities aren't there, it's that you're missing them, you're not seeing them. So the element associated with this card is Earth, it's a pentacle. The astrology is Mercury and Taurus, and the numerology is 5. So it indicates worry, financial, money, work problems, lack mentality, delayed communication, miscommunication, and feeling unsupported. Reversed, it indicates seeing the opportunities, right? You're not missing any opportunities. A new job after being unemployed, rising up after a bankruptcy, adapting to change, disharmony. It can mean disharmony, and it can mean a misuse of resources. So the symbolism, the glass window represents life's beauty and fragility. There are 3 planes in the window to signify the maiden, mother, and crone aspects of the goddess. You can see that there's like 1 there, 2 and 3, right? 3 panes. The colors in the stained glass represent the following: yellow for joy, green for growth, and red for courage. Green and red were purposely used together to signify God and goddess, balance, and animal and vegetable life. So some of the snowflakes are ornate and beautiful as a reminder that even in the worst of times, there is still beauty to be found around you. So this is the 69th card in the deck, which breaks down to a 6. So the number 69 is one of financial worry and feeling spiritually empty because you've strayed from your true path. And the number 6 is concerned with ensuring you're fairly compensated for your work. So the astrology is Mercury in Taurus, and it is typically slow moving, as Taurus has a grounding effect on Mercury's speed. So this energetic combination can be single-minded and strong-willed to the point of being unwilling to ask for the help that could potentially make the situation better. So literally, there they are standing out in front of the church, not willing to look for help, not even really willing to see that the church is behind them for help, right? Like the Five of Pentacles is definitely a card of situations that you've put yourself in. So the alternative interpretations of the card. This card shows up and your query is about love. Whether you're looking for love or in a relationship, you may be seeing the person you love or are interested, you may be seeing that the person you love or are interested in is not fully trusting you. The person may not be emotionally supporting you the way that you would like them to. You may also be trying too hard to make something work that's not in your highest and best interest. If you're deciding to move on from your current love interest, know that there are plenty of people out there that have the potential to be your soulmate. This card, if your query is about work and this card comes up, it can mean that you're most likely having a hard time at work right now, resulting in you feeling overwhelmed or being stuck. You might be feeling like you're not being fairly compensated. So the choice is ultimately yours, whether you stay or you go. And if you feel like your work situation has become unhealthy, you ultimately have the choice to either leave the situation or change your situation for the better. So ask for help where you need it and the help will come. If your query is about spirituality and this card shows up, if you're having a hard time spiritually, remember that this difficult time will pass. You don't have to face your problems all alone. Allow the help you need to come into your life. Not only does that serve you, but serves the person helping you as well. So keep the faith that your circumstances will change for the better. If your query is about money and this shows up, like literally there's probably opportunities all around you to make money if this card shows up, right? It's like, this is the Pentacles. There's literally 5 Pentacles in the window behind them and they're just not seeing it. So though your situation may feel hopeless, this is a reminder that you are not alone. Seek out needed help and it will be granted to you. Get innovative about how to solve your financial problems. Revisit previously dismissed solutions. Trust that this is simply a rough patch and the situation will eventually turn and be in your favor. And just try to take a look around and look at things from a fresh perspective, because that generally almost always changes things, especially if your query is about money. Okay, moving on to the Five of Cups, the pity party card. Nobody likes this card. 3 cups spilled on the ground, 2 standing upright. Five of Cups is the pity party card. It indicates a disappointment resulting in feelings of emotional frailty, depression, and defenselessness. These heavy emotions can make us feel off balance and even like there's no way out, but the Mars energy in this card makes it so that these feelings can be used to bring about needed change. The card indicates a need for looking at your feelings objectively, particularly if you're wallowing in past disappointments and or carrying with you negativity passed down through your ancestral or family line. This card's a sign that you need to let go of all these emotions that aren't serving you. Decide you're no longer available for the negativity to weigh you down. So element is water because it's a cup card. It's Mars and Scorpio astrology, and it's numerology 5, obviously. So the card means self-pity, disappointment, depression, loss, sadness, self-blame, fear, and fear particularly of abandonment. So in Leah language, this card is like the pity party card or crying over spilled milk. When it's reversed, I'll most often say, oh, there's more going right than wrong. So when it's reversed, it's like there's 3 cups upright and 2 cups spilled, so there's more going right. So, you know, this card also, I think people call this card the glass half full, glasses versus the glass half empty. Like that's very much the energy of this card. When it's upright, it's like you're feeling like the glass is half empty, and when it's the other way, it's like you're feeling more like, oh, the glass is half full, right? Okay, so reversed, this card indicates moving on or recovering from a loss, resolving conflicts, creating community, renewal, time to explore family history or genealogy, hope, reunions, reconnecting with loved ones. The symbolism. So the person is wearing a black coat, which represents despair. They're clinging to the cloak. There is something serving her or is otherwise pleasurable in the feeling of misery, right, in this card. The stream represents the stream of consciousness, representing an opportunity for reflection. The spilled cups represent that which has been lost. The yellow cup is for joy, the white for innocence, and the blue for spirit or faith that has been lost. The 2 upright cups are red for the will to change and green for the inevitable growth that will happen as a result of shifting out of the swallowing. The 2 upright cups, the path and the bridge, represent that which the person is refusing to see. Yet these are the exact avenues that can help her rise above her present circumstances. The path and bridge lead to the mountains, hills of enlightenment, right? So it's all, that's the thing about the journey and the dreamer's journey is it's all always within our reach and within our grasp to change our current circumstances and our current situations. If we just open up our eyes, it's part of why we use this divination tool, right? To like open up our eyes to help us see what's coming so that we can make educated decisions and get out of, things that aren't working in our favor. So the numerology, it's the 41st card in the deck, which also breaks down to a number 5. So the number 41 highlights the importance of mindset. Our thoughts can manifest our reality. Simply by choosing different thoughts, we can bring about all that we desire. The number 5 is the number of change, obviously. Change your thoughts, change your circumstances. So astrology is Mars in Scorpio. It's an intense energy with a tendency to hang on to past disappointments. This is an explorative and immersive energy that's not afraid to face adversity head on. So alternative interpretations of this card. So love, if you're in a relationship, this card can show up as a sign that the relationship has ended or is in the process of ending. It can feel like you've lost everything, but taking time to heal right now will eventually give you the strength to open up and look for a new partner. Take the lessons you've learned and create a relationship that serves both you and this other person. So if this shows up regarding work, I don't know why that's showing up as a typo. If this card shows up and your query is about work, you may be working a job that's not in alignment with who you are or who you're becoming. Now's the time to decide what your ideal job would be and begin doing what is necessary to change your circumstances. If you're looking for work, you may be frustrated at this time with how long the process is taking. You might be experiencing delays with getting your calls returned, the length of the application process, revising resumes, being proactive. But remember, there's a line between being proactive and being obnoxious. So spirituality, if your query is about spirituality and this card comes up, you may be holding on to resentment and it's time to let go of it. Practice healing and forgiveness, not for the sake of the person who has wronged you, but for the sake of your own spiritual well-being. If your query is about money and the 5 of Cups comes up, you may be worrying too much about finances right now, which is actually contributing to your cash flow problems. As I speak, I create. As I think, I create, right? Chances are your financial situation isn't as dire as you think it is. It never is, right? Like we're always like getting into fear mentality and like thinking the very worst when things aren't actually quite as bad as we're making them out to be. A donation, however small, to a cause you're emotionally invested in can open up your ability to receive. Okay. I feel like this is like really depressing, you guys. And I feel like it's just getting more depressing. Now we're like gonna have anxiety and then we're gonna have conflict. Oh, I need to like lighten this live stream up a little bit. 5 of Swords. 5 of Swords about fear, particularly the fear of being defeated. It's likely that this fear is being brought on by memories of past hurts. Fear is brought out to prevent you from taking risks in order to keep you safe, but fear also distorts your perspective and prohibits your growth from a particular experience. This card shows up as a sign it's time to decide to shift your mindset from any negative programming put on you by your family. Recognize that the past is the past and release the fear that's keeping you from changing your life. Literally, this card is like, here's the guy, he's won the war, he's got their swords, in fact, and he's walking away, but he's still looking over his shoulder. So it's like, he should be celebrating, he should be happy that he won the war, but it's like not having the ability to be happy over winning the war. So it's like the constant looking over the shoulder. It's like, oh, are these guys gonna come back and get me now while I'm sleeping, or whatever the case may be. It's like, there's a general air of mistrust of other people when this card shows up. The element is air, the astrology is Venus in Aquarius, and the numerology is 5. So it can mean argument, deceit, unfairness, negative scattered thinking, and a no-win situation. Oops. Let's see. Reversed, this card can mean feeling the need to hide or protect, someone blocking your efforts, apathy, meanness, misunderstanding, and a conflict that needs to be resolved. So the symbolism, the swords represent knowledge and power. The griffins on the swords symbolize a lion's strength with an eagle's speed and agility. The wind is blowing, signifying the winds of change are upon them. The gray, pure, and calm sea are representative of deception and duplicity. It's the literal gray area in the picture, right? The card is the 55th card in the deck, which breaks down to a number 1. The number 5 is the number of change. So 55 carries with it a more intense vibration of change, right? Change can potentially bring about all that we desire. Number 1 is the number of creation. So specifically, this card calls for the creation of new thoughts that will help us release our fears. The astrology is Venus in Aquarius. Venus in Aquarius is self-sufficient and rebellious. It prefers not to get advice from others and chooses to take action on its own. This has the ability to either yield great results or completely backfire. The tendency to do things on its own can be interpreted by others as standoffishness, and this energetic combination tends to be non-communicative, leaving room for misunderstanding. Alternative interpretations of this card. If this card shows up for you and your query is about love, if you are in a relationship, you're likely experiencing conflict with your partner. Whether in a relationship or looking for one, things just might not be working out as you would like them to. Make sure you're clear about your boundaries and limits. Get clear and honest with yourself about what your non-negotiables are. Compassionately communicate this to your love interest and be willing to accept all that comes with the said honesty. So if your query is about work and this card shows up, pay special attention to how you're communicating your grievances. Your passion for what you see as needed change may be interpreted as you being too pushy. You may feel like you're being treated unfairly at work. Ensure you're striking balance between playing by the rules and being in alignment with what you know is right. So spirituality. If you find yourself on the spiritual path you've been seeking your entire life, it's important to remember that this is your path. There's no need to bring others around to your way of thinking. Additionally, you may be breaking ties to a spiritual path that's no longer serving you. So take the time at this juncture to really explore other paths. If your query is about money and this shows up, exercise caution on how you're spending your money. Use creative measures to better the situation by cutting expenditures or selling unneeded items. Keep at it and ask for help when needed. Help will be delivered if you ask for it. And finally, we are at the 5 of Wands, which is the conflict card. So the 5 of Wands is a card of frustration, indicating a situation where the seeker is feeling extremely energetic without a clear idea of how to focus that energy. This feeling of being stuck can cause restlessness and possibly anxiety. These feelings can keep you from seeing things clearly and can also keep you from making strides in creative endeavors. This card indicates you may want to assess whether or not anxiety patterns and patterns passed down through whether the anxiety patterns are patterns passed down to you through your family lineage. You have an opportunity to release this frustration and anxiety so that you can realize your full creative power. This card, more than anything to me, represents conflict. It's conflict that you're currently in, or it's conflict that's coming. And literally, like, it almost always shows up as that. So some of the other and conflict, power struggles, those are kind of the main meanings of this card. This is one of those ones where there's no two ways about it, right? So conflict, anxiety, frustration, stuck creatively or writer's block, competition, power struggles. Competition's another great one for this card. I mean, like, literally you've got these 5 guys fighting each other, right? Initiative, aspiration, advancement, and analyzing different perspectives. But generally it means like you're in conflict with somebody else or multiple people, right? Sometimes also an organization, like you're in conflict with an organization or a business entity. So reversed, it can mean legal help necessary to resolve a conflict. But to me, almost always when it's reversed, it means you're coming out of conflict or the conflict is over, right? But it can also mean animosity. Let me just write this in really quick. Arguments, a need for psychic protection, sabotage, or the inability to make decisions. So the symbolism in here, the range of hair colors on the combatants represents the range of the conflict. The colors of the clothing go in order around the color wheel, symbolizing the balance and harmony waiting for the conclusion of this internal struggle. The raised dust is representative of how easy it can be to lose perspective when in the throes of conflict. Sorry, that was like a little fuzzy there. So this is the 27th card in the deck, which breaks down to a number 9. The 27 serves as a reminder that not only that what we think we attract, but that also challenges bring opportunity for learning and growth. A focus on the positive will bring in more positivity, but worrying about things brings in the very thing that we're worried about, right? So the number 9 is the number of service, both to ourselves and to others. It's the number of the humanitarian. It's the number of living our soul's purpose and expressing gratitude for all we've learned from the challenges that we've encountered. So the astrology is Saturn in Leo. Saturn's the planet of restriction and limitations, while Leo desires recognition for its accomplishments, gifts, and achievements. So Leo can go so far as wanting to be noticed for simply being a Leo. This energetic combination can cause internal struggle to the point of giving up on the goal, and can also lead to doubting the value of ourselves and of our goals. It's possible to overcome the challenges that block us from reaching our next level. It is possible to overcome the challenges. And the alternative meanings of this card. So love, if you're in a relationship, this card is a call for you to acknowledge the efforts you've put into the relationship. Decipher what you need to be putting more effort into or what you need to be stepping away from. And then ask for what you need, right? If you're looking for love, the person you're attracted to may have several others expressing their interest at the moment. So, but it can also mean that several other people are expressing romantic interest in you. With work, if you're competing for a promotion or a position, remember that it's only possible to get this desired post if you try. You may be struggling internally about it, about whether or not you should go for it, and what the tactics to take to make yourself competitive. Ensure fairness in all of your actions, as those who resort to underhanded dealings or tricks don't typically experience permanent success. If your query is about spirituality and this card comes up, it indicates that you're doing too much and you need to take time to rest and rejuvenate. It's not about doing more, it's focusing your time and energy on what's in alignment with your soul's purpose and passion. Give yourself the alone time that you need and give yourself the opportunity to grow spiritually. This card can also indicate when it shows up in a spiritual query that you're having an inner conflict with yourself around like religious dogma that you grew up with versus new religious ideas that you may be coming into, or lack of religious ideas or new spiritually based practices that you're coming into. If your query is about money, this means now is the time to look at your finances objectively. If you notice a situation where you may not be able to meet all your needs and get all of your bills paid, be honest with yourself about the situation where you can realistically adjust your spending, and then your financial situation will get better. So those are the 5s. Thank God we're done with them. Oh my God, so depressing. I feel like I need to go do something fun now to rid myself of all the negative 5 energy. No, growth is change, right? We have to show up and do the hard stuff. So please post readings. We have done the 4s and the 5s like really quickly together here. So if you're doing personal readings for yourself and 4s or 5s come up in those readings, please post them in the group and I will weigh in on your posts. We will have the 6s next week, but I would love to do some card interpretations, some reading interpretations in the meantime. So please post your readings. So, 5 life path, it means, Mallory, you already know, 5 in representation in the tarot is not necessarily all the representations of the life path 5, which you already know. We are not talking about life paths in this course. We are talking about tarot. Okay, farewell. Have an amazing day. Love you guys.